Hello everyone and welcome to the first TD in the spring series of the TD workshop. I hope everybody had a good and restful break. Mine was definitely a good break, definitely eventful, but also seemed a little too short. But let's get started. So this TD workshop, we're going to be talking about the basics of web scraping, and we're going to do kind of a project where we web scrape, analyze data, and then where we create a project in the end. So let's get started. What is web scraping? Web scraping is the process of extracting data off websites automatically using programming. So it allows us to combine both programming and data analytics skills, so it kind of kills two birds with one stone, and it looks really good on the resume. It's valuable, sought out by employers. If you have this on your resume and you're able to talk about it, you get to make yourself look even better. You know programming, you know data analytics, and you did a project with it. So it's going to boost your resume and make you look like a better candidate. And it's just something interesting to learn in general. So here's what we're going to learn. We're going to start with the basics of Python and HTML. Don't worry if you already know Python and HTML. I'm going to put a little timestamp in the video when we get to that part, showing you where to skip to. I know it's in the MIS curriculum, but I know some people don't know it. So I'm just going to review it a little bit. And then after that, we're going to start with web scraping with Beautiful Soup. This will all be in video 1. And after we're done learning that, this will be probably the start of video 2. We're going to actually web scrape this website right here. This is just a website that I created that displays movie data. And we're going to scrape this one so we all have the same data and working with the same data. And we can analyze it with the rest of the project. After we're done scraping that website, we're going to prep the data with pandas. So pandas is another Python library that allows you to analyze data, clean data. So we're going to clean the data and analyze it with pandas. And then after that, we're going to visualize the data with Chart.js. So what's Chart.js? Chart.js is a JavaScript library that allows you to plot data. Here are some examples of Chart.js charts straight on their website. It's a really nice library. I've used it. I've used it in personal projects, and it's very easy to learn, very nice skill to learn. You can put this standalone on your resume too, and it'll look good. But yeah, we're going to use Chart.js to chart the data. So we're basically going to be video 1. We're going to learn the basics of Python and HTML and learn web scraping with Beautiful Soup. Video 2, we're going to scrape with Beautiful Soup and prep data with pandas. And then video 3, we're going to spend plotting the data with Chart.js. And it'll be like a beginning to end project. So with that being said, let's get started. What is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. But you don't really need to know that. All you need to know is that HTML is the standard language to structure content on web pages. And this is crucial for understanding web scraping because when we web scrape, we actually go through these different tags that make up a web page. We go through that structure and select the data that we want. So I'm first going to show you an example of a web page. I'm sure you've seen many web pages in your life, but here's a Wikipedia page on the different states and territories of the United States. If I right-click and I hit inspect on the bottom option, and I'm using Chrome, you could see a huge mess of just different things. Divs, A's, body, it's just a bunch of different things. But this is HTML. This is what's creating the structure on the page. If I click this little thing in the left, you can see I can click on different elements and see how they're made. So if I click right here, you see that this is a TH tag that says cities. To show you a little bit better, because this is very messy, I've created a little mock HTML page right here that shows the tags that we're probably only going to be encountering in this video or in this series, just to give you a little understanding of what all that is. So the first tag I want to show is a header tag. So what a header tag is, if I go back over to the Wikipedia page and go to the top, this is an example of a header tag. You can see it says H1. This is a header tag. Over here, I also have an H1, a header tag. A header tag is the type of tag you'd use at like the top of an article to say this is the title of the article. There are different types of header tags. So this is H1, this is H3. As you go up in numbers, they get smaller. So H6 is the smallest. I can show that. H6, I'm a small header tag. And you can see this is just one of the different structures that make up web pages. This is just the title of a page. The next tag I want to show is the paragraph tag. As you'd imagine, this just shows the text. So if you have an article, the header is going to be the title of the article, and then the paragraph tag is going to be the article itself. So if I go back over to the Wikipedia page, you can see this is all just p tags. P. There's some other tags mixed in there that I won't discuss, such as the A tag. This is just, you can imagine this as the link tag. This is what takes you to another site. But yeah, the P tag basically just lists information. Another important tag to know for web scraping is the div tag. And the best way to think of this tag is it's just a container. Right now I have it pointed out. I changed the background color so you could actually see it, but div tags can be clear. If I delete that, it also deleted some of the styling on it that was making it bigger as well, but the div tag is still there. If I can actually show you style. Don't pay attention to this. This isn't important, but see, you can see that got bigger. That's because that div tag is still there. It's not visible right now. So if I put the ID back onto it, you can see the div again. And just to show that it is a container, I put a little paragraph inside of it so you can see it's a container holding that paragraph. If we go back over to the Wikipedia site, I'm sure, yeah, there's a bunch of divs. So see, this div right here is holding all the paragraph tags for this article right here. Another tag that we may encounter is the table. So a table has a certain structure, but this is what it looks like on the page. We got the table head, which is represented by TH, then another TH tag, and then a TD tag, which is the table data tag. So we got the table, we got the tags that mark that this is the head of the table, so this part of the table, and then TH holds the data of the table, so TH basically marks these cells, and TD is the data that goes in that TH. So let's say we delete year. You can see that is now not on there because year doesn't exist anymore. If we look over at the body, that's defined by tBody. And then we got the TR tag, which stands for table or row. And then again, TD, the data for the row. So for the table row tag, if we delete, say, 2027, you can see that data is now gone because that cell has no more data anymore. Furthermore, we could just delete the data inside the cells and just have an empty row. As long as the TD is there, it signifies that there's some type of structure there. And if I delete a row, you can see that whole row goes away. If I add a row, you can see that whole row gets added. I can change the values into it. We'll say Bob. I think you get the idea. But this is basically just defining the structure of a table. If I go back over to the Wikipedia page and I scroll down, you see there's a table right here. Well, if we highlight this table, you can see the TH tag. So this represents the whole table row, the table head row. If I expand TH, you can see the different elements inside of it. This is a pretty complex table, but yeah, you can see table body, table row. So this is this row. This one they used the table head tag in the row. But yeah, you can see all the data basically. And that's what HTML is. It's a language that allows us to define structure on a web page. And this little explanation should be enough for you to get through the workshop series and understand. As we go on, it's going to make sense. you're going to understand what I'm saying. I just wanted to have this little review just in case you weren't familiar at all with HTML. Let's review some tags. So we've already reviewed them. That's all actually I did want to touch on one more thing. Along with the tags, there's something called classes and IDs. So here's an ID right here. So it's got an ID of example div. So what IDs do is they allow you to put a name to the structure so that you can reference it either in a style sheet, which styles the div a certain way. So if you look right here, I have the ID set to example div, and I have a style sheet over here, which defines how that div should look. If I take away example div, that style goes away because it doesn't have that ID anymore. Now, the thing about IDs is they have to be unique. So no other element on this page can or should have an ID of example div. On the other hand, classes, you can have multiple elements with the same class. And classes are the same exact idea. It's so that you can reference that particular structure either in a style sheet or in a script. And you'll see if this doesn't really make sense, when we get into it and start web scraping, it's going to make more sense. But it's basically just so that we can reference it. So if we're going through all the data on a web page, web scraping, we can reference table major and get CS. I think that's all I'm going to leave as the explanation for HTML for right now. That should be enough to get you through the rest of the workshop, and I hope you have a greater understanding. If you feel shaky about anything, feel free to reach out to me, and we can have a one-on-one where I can explain things better. With that being said, let's move on. What is Python? Python is a very powerful programming language that's mostly used in data analytics. It's very easy to learn, it's very beginner-friendly, and it's a great choice for web scraping. It's got a lot of good libraries for it. For example, we're going to be using Beautiful Soup and Request, but there's also Cilium. We won't touch Cilium, but that's another library you could use for web scraping. And with that being said, let's review some Python. So for this, I just have this Python online IDE opened. Basically, it's just a little area where I can write Python code and run it. So the first thing I want to talk about is variables. So variables, you can think of them as containers. They're things we define that hold values. So in Python, there's basically, you could call it three data types. There's strings, which are text. So if I say this is how you declare a variable, let's say we say name equals and col, make sure it's in the quotes. We just defined a variable named col. Now, if we want to show what that value is that variable is holding in Python, all we do is we type print name, print, and then the variable. And if we hit run, you can see it says col. Now, if you want to follow along with this, just go to www.onlinepython.com. Forgot to mention that. You can follow along with this one easily. Let me just show you. When you get onto the actual IDE, you can just delete all of this and then just follow along with what I'm doing. But yeah, we just assigned a variable called name, and we set it equal to col. Now we can call this anything. We can change it to A, which this is going to give us an error because we're saying print name, but name isn't defined anymore. So we change it to print A. The other data type that we have in Python is numbers. Numbers is what it is. It's a number. So we could say num equals 5, and we could do print num, and you could see we get col and then 5. And you delete these print statements as we go along. But that's number. We could also do decimal equals 5.5, print num, print decimal, and you can see we get 5 and 5.5. So we're basically just making little containers to hold values. The third data type that I want to show is Boolean. So the Boolean type is basically just true or false. So we could say, is it raining equals false. And we could say, is it sunny equals true. If we print, is it raining, it prints false. And if we print, is it sunny, it prints false and then true, because we print is it raining first and then is it sunny second. So that's basically a rundown on variables. The next thing I want to go over is lists. So a list is basically just a collection of variables. So we can say names equals Cole, Allison, Eric. That's how we define a list. We do these two braces right here, and then we add whatever we want into it. If I print names, you can now see Cole, Allison, Eric. Cool thing about lists in Python, this isn't true in every language, but say we wanted to add a number to this list, you're able to mix and match types in there. Maybe we want to add a Boolean value too, true. And you can see it accepts all those values. Something important with lists that's interesting that's built into Python is we can iterate over them easily, so we can loop through a list. Let me show you what that looks like. So for example, say we wanted to loop through every name in this list. We want to print every single name, not just how it is down here where it says Cole, Alex, and Eric in those brackets. We want to print every name individually. We could do for name, so we're starting a for loop. So for name in names with the little colon, print name. And you can see it prints Cole, Allison, Eric. So what we're basically doing is we're creating another variable called name, which is derived from names. So what Python is doing is it's looping through this array. So it sees Cole first, assigns it to name, we print name. Then it goes to the next name, Allison, assigns Allison to name, prints name. And then we go to Eric, and it assigns Eric to name, and then it prints name. And that's basically all you need to know about lists. And we'll also touch on dictionaries. So dictionaries, they're key value pairs. So what this means is we're assigning a key to something. So we're making a key and we're assigning a value to it. So let me show you an example of that. So let's say we wanted to model my car. So Cole's car equals, now the difference between a dictionary and a list is we indicate a dictionary with these curly braces. So with the key value pairs, we need a key and then a value. So the key is going to be brand, colon, value is the brand of the car, Toyota. And then we do a comma. So the next one, we're going to do model, colon, Corolla, and then we'll add year. And this one's going to be a number. So you could see key, value, key, value, key, value. And like how we saw in lists, I actually didn't explain that. In lists, so let me real quick go back up to list. If we did print, we'll delete this real quick, names 0, and we hit play on that, you can see it does Cole. Names 1, it does Allison. So we're putting 1 in these braces. Names 2, it gives Eric. Down here, if we do print Cole's car 1, or we'll start with 0, that doesn't work. That gives us an error. and that gives us an error because we have key value pairs. So in order to get something out of it, we need to have the key. So Cole's car brand, that equals Toyota. Let me delete this. Cole's car model equals Corolla. And just like we could with the names, with the list, we can use a for loop on this too. So for, we'll say attributes in Cole's car, print attribute. Now you'd imagine that it's going to print Toyota Corolla 2001 because those are the attributes, but it doesn't. It's going to print brand, model, year. So it's only printing the keys right now. So right now it's going and looping through Cole's car, so it's going brand, assign brand to attribute, print brand. Then it goes to model, assign model to attribute, print that attribute, so it prints model. Then it goes to year, assign year to attribute, and then it prints that attribute, and that prints year. But that's not what we want. What we want is Toyota Corolla in 2001. So in order to get that, what we could do is we could say Cole's car, like how we did above, put the brackets around attribute, or you know what, to see this even better, we could say key value equals attribute, or no, you know what, we'll call this key value. So now we put key value right there where Cole's car is, and we hit run on that, and now we get Toyota Corolla in 2001. So now what it's doing when it's looping through it is going, it starts with brand, it assigns brand to key value, and that prints Cole's car with the key value brand. And then it goes to model, assigns model to key value, and then it prints Cole's car with the key value of model. And then it goes to year, assigns it to key value, and then prints Cole's car with the key value year. And that's basically how that's working. And I guess I'll go over functions as well, because we might run into them. So with functions, functions are basically just like a block of code that you can reuse that does something for you. So to define a function in Python, we use the keyword def. And let's create a function called parents hello. And that's the basic structure of a function. We use def, print hello, the little colons, or the little parentheses, and then the colon. And we'll do print hello. And now if I hit run on this, nothing happens. But if I call the function, I'll write it out. If I call the function, you can see it now prints hello. And I can write that as many times as I want, and it'll print hello that many times. So if I delete all these, and I create a function called def sum numbers, we can do a little bit more with the function. So inside these curly brackets, I can define variables that I want to use. So we're going to say num1, comma, num2. And we're going to return a value. So return is another keyword in a function. So that means the function does something, and then it gives you this value back. So we're going to return num1 plus num2. So if we run the function sum numbers 2 and 2, we're going to get 4, because what this is going to do is it's going to call sum numbers, and it's going to assign 2 to num1 and 2 to num2. Then inside the function, it's going to add num1 and num2. So this is 2 and 2, 2 plus 2, and it's going to return that number. If I run, nothing happens. That's because we didn't tell it to do anything else. If we can call it sum equals sum numbers. If we print sum, you can see we get 4, because sum now equals the return value of that function. This is all that we really need to know for this workshop series. If this was confusing in any way at all, don't sweat it. When we get to it in the actual workshop, it's going to be easy. I'm going to go through it slowly. I'm going to go through it meticulously. You're going to understand it by the end of it. And you could also reach out to me if you want to go over anything one-on-one. This was a very quick review. You can easily go on YouTube and get a even more in-depth tutorial on Python. I just wanted to add it in here to get you familiar with Python before I just threw you into it. So with that being said, let's get started with web scraping. So to get started, first I want you to go to your browser. I need you to understand something because some websites allow you to web scrape and some websites don't allow you to web scrape. But how do you know when a site allows you to and when a site doesn't allow you to? The way we figure that out is by looking at their robots page. So go to Airbnb.com. And right now, we just see their normal page. Here's all the listings. What we're going to do to get to the to the robots page is we're going to type airbnb.com/robots.txt. And hit enter. And you'll see that this is a completely different looking page. Definitely not something that the public usually sees. What this page is for is it's for people who are web scraping to be able to know what parts of the web page they're allowed to scrape and what parts they're not. So Airbnb, you can see they allow you to web scrape calendar/ICAL, and they allow you to scrape .well-known, the rest of that, but they disallow you to scrape all of this. So basically, we're not able to scrape Airbnb. This is not a site that we'll be scraping in this series. If we go to another example of something like that, if we go to apple.com, see Airbnb gives you a couple pages that, yeah, you're allowed to scrape. Apple, if we do apple.com/robots.txt, they disallow everything. That's what that /* means. You're not allowed to scrape anything on this site. Now they do allow you to scrape, interestingly, this site, which is their Chinese site. It allows you to scrape their Chinese site, but it doesn't allow you to scrape the US site. To get around this, because I don't want us getting in trouble scraping sites that we're not supposed to scrape, I just want to add a quick note. The way I'm explaining it right now, it makes it seem like that this is the only way to know. But there are other things that you could look at, like terms of service and stuff. Sometimes, even though it says it in robots.txt that you're allowed to scrape, you're not actually allowed to scrape it. So there's more research that you need to go into to figure out if you're allowed to scrape something. This is just one quick way of figuring it out. I just want to add that in there just in case people started mass scraping sites based off this when there's more that you should look at. We won't touch on that in this video series since everything we're going to be scraping is safe to scrape, but that is another consideration that you have to take in. And just because it says allow right here on the Chinese version of Apple, it might not actually allow that. With that being said, let's continue with the video. There is a solution. There's some sites out there that are scrape friendly, so we're going to use scrapethissites.com. If we check the robots.txt of this site, you can see that we're allowed to scrape everything but lessons and FAQ. So if we go back over to the site, you can see that's FAQ/FAQ and then lessons/lessons. So we wouldn't be able to scrape either of these two pages, but everything else is free reign. So I want you to go to scrapethissite.com. I want you to hit Explore Sandbox or click Sandbox in the navigation bar. And I want you to click on the first one, Countries of the World, a simple example. And this is what we're going to be using to learn the basics of Beautiful Soup. So let's get started with that. Okay, so after you open up this part of Scrape This Site, I want you to open a new tab and look up Google Colab. So what Google Colab is it's a cloud software that allows you to run Python code and it's kind of like, if you know Jupyter Notebook, it's kind of like that. It allows you to, it's an IDE built in a way that makes it easier for data analytics in Python. So click on Google Colab, go to Google Colab, And you'll be met with this. You could either hit, we're about to make a new notebook, so you could hit new notebook and get early, but I can hit cancel. This is the basic look of Google Colab. Now, when you clicked on the link, you probably had to sign in. Try with your school account. If your school account doesn't work, because I don't think that Temple allows us to use Google Colab, just sign in with a personal email, and that's all right. So when you're in here, go to the left side where File is, click on File, and click New Notebook in Drive. And this is going to open up a new Google Colab file that we could edit, and it's going to put in your Google Drive. So first thing I want you to do is go to the top left corner, click on the name, and rename it to Spring TD01. And this is where we're going to start learning about web scraping. So first thing I want you to do, or the first thing I want us to understand, is the request library. So in order to use the request library, we first have to import it. And just for anybody who's new to Python, libraries are basically, I talked about functions. Libraries are basically different collections of functions made by different people that allow other users to use those functions. So it's like a collection of functions that we have that we can use. And we're going to import those functions. So import requests. So after you type import requests, you could hit Shift Enter to run it, or you can run it by hitting this little play button. And you'll know it's done importing when there's a little check mark next to it. And you see the little check mark, so that means that we're good. So now I'm going to make a new cell by clicking plus code. And you'll see that we have a new cell that we can now edit stuff in. So what the request library does is it allows us to provide a URL, and we can give the request library this URL, and it will get all the data from it. So I'm going to define a URL. So this is a variable. I'm going to go back over to the site that we're going to scrape. I'm going to copy the URL from this site, and I'm going to make it the value of this variable. So URL equals the URL of the site that we're trying to scrape. And we're going to run the cell. After I'm done defining the URL, I'm going to actually use the request library. So again, the request library, we provide a URL, and it goes and gets the data. In order to do that, I'm going to define a variable named response equals, we're going to call in the library, so requests. We're going to use the method .get, or the function .get, and we're going to provide it the URL we defined above. This is basically saying response equals requests.get, and then this URL right here. And after we hit enter on that, nothing happens. But something did happen behind the scenes. The response library went and got the data from this URL. Now we can check if it was successful or not by either just printing the response or by printing response dot status code. And you'll see response 200, status code 200. 200 means it was successful. If it's anything other than 200, then there was some type of error when it got the data. Either the site URL was wrong, or there's just no data on the site to get. We got 200, so that means we have something to work with. So we got that. Now what? How do we see that data? The way we see that data is we do print response dot text. If you print that, now you see a huge glob of a lot of stuff. And if we look back over at the site, now this site, since it's built for web scraping, it looks clean. But if we were to scrape a different site, it might not look this clean. So if we look back over, you can see Ondora. If I do Control F on that, you can see it's right here. Same thing if I scroll down really far, we do this one, and you see it's on here. So the response library went and grabbed all that data and assigned it to that variable. So if you hit this little thing right here, you could hide the output. So I'm going to do that so it's not there. But that's basically all we need to know about the request library, is that we're able to go and grab data from websites and store them in variables. And this is going to be very important for the Beautiful Soup library because, yeah, we have the data, we have all this stuff, but garbage in, garbage out. What are we going to do with this? There's nothing we can really do with this. That's where Beautiful Soup comes in, where we're going to be able to go through this data and get the information that we want. So with that being said, let me show you how to use Beautiful Soup. All right, let's continue by learning how to use Beautiful Soup. So again, just like Response, Beautiful Soup is another library. I'm just going to hide this output so it's easier to work. I'm going to add a new block. Where's the button for it? We'll just hit Shift-Enter on this again and hide the output. So in order to import the Beautiful Soup library, we do import, or no, from BS4, import beautiful, B-E-A, I'm forgetting how to spell beautiful, Beautiful Soup. And we do Shift-Enter on that. And you have the library imported, and we can start using it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a soup object. What a soup object is it's basically just a variable that is set up that we could use the Beautiful Soup functions on. So let's set one up. So we make soup equals Beautiful Soup, and then we're going to define what we want the soup to be, what we want the content of the soup to be. So we're trying to see the content of this site. So we got that content through our response. So we're going to type response, and then we're going to put in the text version of it. So response.text. And then we need some type of parser. There's a couple different parsers with Beautiful Soup. I won't go into them, but I will show you the one that's the fastest, and that's pretty reliable. That's the LXML parser. What the parser is it's just the mechanism that looks through your response and gives you stuff. So we're going to hit enter on that. It's going to create that object. And let's just print that object just to see what it looks like. And as you can see, it looks just like the response was, but it's kind of formatted a little differently. To make it look a little bit better, we can do soup.prettify. And now it looks just as it would if you were making an HTML document. This is not ideal. We're not looking to see a whole glob of HTML. We're looking to go through the HTML and find pieces that we want and extract the data that we want. Luckily, Beautiful Soup allows us to easily extract data out of this mess of HTML. So let's figure out how to do that. So first I'm going to hide this HTML output and added a new code block. So right now, let's just pick an easy element to grab off the web page. So I already know from planning out this video that this is a p tag, and this is the first p tag that appears on the page. So I'm going to purposefully find this one first. So in order to grab stuff off of a web page, we're going to call on our soup object, which is up here, which stores all the content. And we're going to say soup. We want to find the first element with a p tag. And if I hit enter on that, you can see we get a single page that lists information about all countries in the world. And if we go back over here, a single page that lists all information about countries in the world. That grabbed the first p tag that appeared on the web page. If we could go one step further with it too, if we want just the text of the output, we could do .text, hit enter onto that, and now we only get the text of that output. And if we want to go one step further than that, we can go .strip, which I didn't mention this in the Intro to Python video, but strip is a method that strips all the white space, so all these extra spaces off the left and the right. So if I do that, you can see we just get a single page that lists all information about countries in the world we get just that little piece of text. And that's amazing. What if we wanted to find more than just this p tag? What if we want to find another p tag on the page? Well, we could do that. If we do soup dot, so we're calling on our soup object, so we want to look through everything in the soup object, and we want to find all tags that have the attribute, or that have we want to find all elements that are wrapped in p tags. We hit enter onto that, and you can see we get a lot more. Now, what if we want to get the text of these elements? We get an error, and that's because when we find something with find all, Python and Beautiful Soup treats it as a list. So let's grab the first element and do the dot text to that. That gives us the elements that we had above, but let's also add the strip on there just to show it's exactly the same as the one above. But what if we want to see the next p tag? We could do 1. And there's the next element on the page that's a p tag. So there are 4 video lessons that show us how to scrape this page. There are 4 video lessons that show you how to scrape this page. Let's go one step further, 2. Now you can see data, and this looks a little weird, but that's just because that's the way that it is. It has an anchor tag in there too. I won't get into that, but that's this part. But what if we go one step further? We run into an error because there was only 3 p tag elements on the page. Now, we could do what if we want to show all the outputs? In that case, we could use our lists, the list iteration stuff I showed in the first video. But in order to do that, we need to assign this to a variable. So let's call this all p's. All p equals soup.find all p. So all p is we're finding all the p tags in the soup object. We hit enter onto that, and now we can just loop through it. So for p in all p, parent p.text.strip. And now you can see here's the first one, here's the second one, and then here's the third one. And it's just that easy to grab elements off a page. Now, our goal right now is to grab all of the countries off the page. So let's find a tag that allows us to do that. The way that we're going to do that is if you go to the website in Chrome and you right-click on it, and you hit inspect, you pull up the developer tools. Now yours might be on this side, mine is down here. Just select this thing in the top left corner, or you could just watch what I'm doing, that works too. I'm going to click on the country, and let's just inspect its properties. So we got a country, we got the country info inside a div tag. You can see capital, population, area, all that's in there. But you also see that all of this is wrapped in one div tag. So what if we just grabbed all the div tags off the site and tried that, and maybe we can get all the country data. So let's try that. So countries, so we're grabbing all the countries, so we're going to name it countries, equals soup. We're calling on the soup object. We want to find all divs contained within the soup. So hit enter on that. And now let's just print the first country. Countries 0, because Python is 0 indexed, dot text dot strip. That's not a country. Scrape the site, sandbox lessons, FAQ. Did we even get a country? 1. Not a country either. 2. Oh, there we go. There's countries. I wonder what went wrong. Also, why is it showing all of them? 3. That's interesting. Well, this was actually because we need to be more specific. If I go back over to the countries and I inspect this, there's a lot more div tags than just that country tag. So we need to be more specific. Luckily, Beautiful Soup allows us to be more specific. Again, if I hover over country, all of them are wrapped in a div tag, yes, but there's so many other elements that use div tags. What we want to look at is there anything identifying this div tag as being a country div tag? And luckily there is. There's a class on it. If we look, class equals column mid4. Oop, messed that up. Class equals column mid4 country. So each div that a country is in has the class name country. Luckily, Beautiful Soup allows us to specify classes when we're going through objects. So let's try that. So let me hide this output, and let's do this again. Countries equals soup, so we're calling on the soup object, dot find all. We want to find all divs, and we're going to add a second attribute here, class underscore equals country. And now we're going to hit enter on that. And now we're going to print the first country again. Print countries 0.text.strip. And now you can see we get Andorra. If I refresh this because I messed that up, we got Andorra. If we do 1, we get the United Arab Emirates. If we look on here, we get the same thing. And again, if we do 3 or 2, again, we get Afghanistan, we get Afghanistan. So now we've successfully isolated all the countries. And here, let me just loop through them just to show that as an example as well. So for country in countries, print country.text.strip. And now you can see we get a list of all the countries. Here's the country, here's its info. Country, info. Country, info. That's great and all, but like, how do we get specific information about the countries now? How do we separate out the information? Well, we're about to learn how. So in order to extract the specific information out of all these countries, we need to get a little bit more specific inside of our for loop, and we need to add some more logic to it. So the great thing about Beautiful Soup is when you loop through a soup object that you've made, the variable that you're looping through also becomes a soup object. So country right here, that acts as a soup now. We can use .find on it and find elements with it. So using that knowledge, we can go back over to the web page and inspect this country div element, and we can figure out what parts we need and extract that info out of it. So first of all, we want to get the country name. So inside this country tag, country name is held inside of an H3 tag that has the class country name. So what we could do is we could just make a variable called country name, set it equal to the new soup, which is country. Country's a soup now. And we can find H3, because it's inside of an H3 tag, with the class country name. And now if we print country name, you can see that we got all the country names. Now it's in the format that we don't want, and this is something I didn't explain in the beginning, but that .text you can add straight to your find. So we're going to add .text.strip and hit enter on that, and you can see now we got all the countries from Andorra all the way down to Zimbabwe. So now that we got the country name, now we just need to get the country info. And luckily, it's easy to do that too. So if we look back at our country div, we can see that the info is stored in another div called country info. So what we're going to do is we're going to make another variable called country info and set that equal to our soup country. We're going to go through country and we're going to find divs with the class country info. So div with the class equal to country info. So now if we print country info, I'm going to add a little new line to it so that we get some separation. Oop, we get an error. The new line is giving an error. So we're just going to remove that new line, and we're just going to print the country info. There we are. And now you can see we get capital population area, capital population area, capital population area. And the cool thing about this is we're getting divs. So this is also a soup object. So we can just go straight in and grab what we need. And we don't even have to look back at the web page. We could see it right here. If we did, say we want to find the country capital, we can set that equal to, we can see right here, here's country info. The capital is stored inside of a span with the class name country capital. If we look over at the web page, it's the same way. Country capital is stored within a span with the class country capital. So let's do country info, which is our soup. We're going to go through country info, and we're going to find span with the class equal to country capital. And now if we print country capital, you can see that we get all the country capitals. And if we do .text, .strip to make it look nice, we get all the country capitals. And we're just going to do the same kind of idea for country population equals, what is this stored in? This is also stored in a span with the class name country population. So country info dot find span class underscore equals country population dot text dot strip. And if we print the country population, we get all the populations. We get some zeros in there. That's interesting. And we can finally print the country area, which would be country info dot find. We're going to find the span with what I'm assuming is class equals country area dot text dot strip. And let's make sure of that. Next one is in a span called country area. And if we print the country area, you can see we got all that. Now that's great, but what now? Now we have to store the data somewhere. So up above our for loop, we're going to create an empty dictionary called country dictionary. And we're going to just declare an empty dictionary. Now I want to show you the format that I want this dictionary to be. What we're going to go for is country dictionary equals, and we're going to use the first country as an example. So we want it to be structured like this. The country name is a key to another dictionary where we have the capital is a key to the capital, comma, the population, if you're familiar with JSON, this is probably going to look familiar, is equal to the population, and then the area is equal to the area. And if we had a second country, we would just do a comma, second country, and so on. That's what we want our dictionary to look like. So I'm going to add in another cell so that that's always there and move this guy up. So now, let me minimize this output. Now I'm going to stop printing, and we want to start working on this dictionary. So the first thing we're going to do is after we find the country name, we're going to take country dictionary. We're going to add country name as a key, and we're going to set that equal to an empty dictionary. So now if we hit play on this, we don't see anything, but if we print country dictionary, you can see it's starting to look a little bit like what we had down there. Let me print it too, just so that it goes sideways. You can see it's looking like that. We got the country name and then an empty dictionary. Okay, now that we've got that settled, we got country info. So it's even simpler. We're gonna go country dictionary, country name, and then we're gonna do capital equals, and then we're going to put country capital. And now if we hit enter onto that and we hit play onto this, you can now see we got the country name, the country capital matched to the country capital. So now we're going to do the same thing again. Country dictionary, country name, population equals country population. And now if we hit play on this, and we hit play on this, you can see we got the population now. And now we're going to do it one more time. Our country dictionary, our country name, our country, we're going to call this the area, and we're going to set this equal to country area. We're going to hit play on this. I'm going to play on this. And now we have all spots filled. We've got Andorra, capital, under population area. And now this is perfect because we got it in a way that we could perform data analysis on it. And that was the main objective of this workshop, was to show you how to get data off of a website and then format it in a way that we could do data analysis with it. With that being said, this is the end of TD1. In the next TD, we're going to do scraping again, just as a review, and we're going to scrape that website that I showed you in the beginning of the movie data. And after we're done scraping that, we're going to use pandas to clean it up and prepare it for our analysis on the last TD, where we're going to build a small little web page that displays the data. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you found it insightful, and I'll see you in the next TD. Also, in a couple seconds, you're going to see what the submittables are. So have a good one.